everyone, and welcome to this edition of Peace Talks. This is a series where we catch up with the bands and artists that are coming to play for us at the Marr in Worcester. And today I'm joined by Steve Taylor. Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning. Good morning, Marr. Good morning, Worcestershire.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, Steve, you're actually the father of one of the artists that we had. It was in our very early days. I'm just looking up at my board. 22nd of December 2022. Rosie Frater Taylor came and played for her with a fantastic trio. That was only
like to say it's all lies. All lies. I've never seen this woman in my life before. Taylor's a very common name.
We'll find out. But yeah, no, that was like I say, I think that was our fifth show, and I think we're now up to, I don't know where we're at now. We're over 25, 30, we must be at 30th or so show. Yeah, we managed to keep going, and she didn't scare them off. And Rosie will actually be coming up with your band.
Yes, she will.
Thursday.
Yes.
Well,
she's
fantastic.
fitting me in between her.
Yeah, I can imagine she's got a very
between her world tour.
Yeah. So we actually met in person for the first time at the Brick Lane Jazz Festival, didn't we, Steve? Just a couple of weeks ago. You and Josie were doing your parent duties on the merch stand for Rosie Frater Taylor, who was playing.
The levels of what everybody does in this house is ridiculous. If there's something to be done, we just do it. So
Brilliant.
It has to be done. It's easier than paying staff to do it.
I know what you mean there.
Yeah. Well, it's quite hard to find people to do anything you need them to do right. So
yes, yeah, there is that too. Fantastic. So it's great to meet you there. And then I also saw you playing at Cheltenham Jazz Festival this weekend, just gone.
Yeah.
And that was with Gab Trio, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is it Gab or is it GAB? Is it?
No, that's the question. It's always Gab, and it's I don't even know what it stands for. It's Clément Riger's band name, and I think it possibly stands for initials of people that he worked with before this particular lineup of Gab, but I don't even know. But it's quite memorable, so everyone seems to say, "What is it?" It's quite memorable, so it's great fun as well.
An enigma forever, but
hey?
An enigma forever.
Absolutely, yeah, an enigma. Yeah, an enigma.
Fantastic. Yeah. And we've actually got Clement Regia, who's in spell check world always wants to correct it to regret.
Yes. Yeah,
he's fantastic French guitarist.
Yeah, no, you just have to ask him to speak slowly enough so you can understand what he's saying.
Yes, interesting pronunciations of the band.
I'm going on record if he ever looks at this. Slow down, Clement.
Yeah, no, that's grand. So he's because he was playing with the Gab. I think you had 2 gigs with him on the weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, we were playing the evening as well, which was a really fun gig as well. So the free stage, which was really mobbed, and it wasn't raining, thankfully. And the Montpellier Wine Bar.
Right, yeah, just around the
corner.
Which
was lots of fun. Yeah, lots of fun.
Yeah, because it was packed in that free stage tent, because I got there a little bit late because my car park choices were bad choices and I couldn't get in.
Right, yeah.
So I was about 5 minutes after you started, and I was like right at the back, I sort of worked my way through, squeezed through. But yeah, that was cool. And then later in the evening there was Clement's band Wildcard were playing over at Bottle of Salt. So anyone watching, Wildcard will be playing for us in October. We got them booked, so that's fantastic. So back to yourself anyway, Steve. So you're a drummer, composer, producer, work with all sorts of people that come on to. But so where did it all sort of start from you? Where are you from, and kind of how did it all?
I'm a Londoner.
He's a Londoner.
I don't know if I'm a Cockney, but I'm a Londoner. I'm possibly one of the few original Londoners you're likely to meet in London these days. So it's less common, but yeah, I'm a Londoner, North London. Where did it all start? My mother was a pianist. My family are obsessed with dancing. They're all dancers and actors and obsessed with show business. And I think as far as drumming goes, it's my earliest kind of memory, really. The old people watching this will probably remember the TV test card. I'm sure there's no old people that go to the Mars bar. That the TV test card that used to be, before 24/7 television.
With the girl with the doll and the
exactly,
you know
what
and
I'm talking about.
crosses. There we go. We're officially old people.
I made exactly, yeah. I made when I was tiny. I made a biscuit tin with a plastic chess set in it and a book on the top. And I seemed to like the sound of it and sat in front of the test card, just playing to anything that came on. So that's where it started: a plastic chess set and a biscuit tin. And yeah, I guess a lot of connection with music and dancing and entertainment in my family as well. So I was never going to do any kind of straightforward, no offense to anybody watching, job. The only other thing I think I've done in my life, other than leave school and work as a musician, is probably push trolleys for Sainsbury's. I think that was my other great talent. So a great kind of, and then I kind of walked out of that in a huff because I didn't like how rude the checkout manager was. So, and then a lifetime of being a musician.
Smashing things.
Second.
Cool. So it was always drums from the start then, was it?
I played piano. I had a very strict classical piano teacher, very, very strict, insisted I looked at the music and got very cross when I didn't.
What is it about stories of piano teachers with children and the strict piano teachers?
Well, you're not allowed to do, I mean, today you're not allowed to upset anybody about anything, I don't think. But I was clearing the loft out the other day and I literally found a book of my written in by my piano teacher and realized how abused I was. No, it was good. I learned classical piano technique and I learned to read, and it was, I mean, it's arguably one of the most important things I ever did, because my writing, composing and arranging, as well as playing the drums, is equally important to me now. So I think it's maybe the combination of the two, and having a musical ear and is very important. Yeah, I suppose tap dancing is very important.
Okay.
As a small boy, as I say, my family were all dancers, interested in acting, did this, that, and the other. And so my memory from tiny is being dragged along to dancing classes twice a week. My mother playing the piano, stride piano, to classfuls of, well, pretty much 99% girls and 1 or 2 boys. And doing competitive dancing, wearing sparkly costumes and being told to go out and smile and win medals.
That's what it's all about.
Which is, well, you know what? You say it's what it's all about, but ironically, I mean, I had a real reaction to it. So I got to teenage and thought, I don't want to go out and be forced to smile and wear a sparkly costume and win medals. And so I sort of put my foot down and said, I don't want to dance ever again. Don't involve me. I don't ever want to do this. But funnily enough, I think it's now I sort of look back at it and think, oh, it's maybe one of the most important things I ever did, because it sort of does train you up to deal with being in front of an audience and just cope with the things which happen, which are always unpredictable.
Yeah.
So the dancing thing now, if you ask me now, I'm really grateful that I did it. But if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I was in therapy about it, I think. So
it's quite interesting because I've seen a couple of, I know Sosa Cole did a gig around this way. I think he was doing a bit of a mini tour and he had a tap dancer with him. I can't remember her name. But I've seen a couple. It seems to be sort of being added in as a sort of.
I mean, there's 2 types. There's the original kind of tap dancing, the American history of hoofing and stuff, which is improvisational tap, a bit like drumming without drums. What I did was more structured, stage dancing and performing and all that kind of thing. But even so, I think, I mean, ultimately, maybe the sound of my mother's piano with her very specific rhythms, and we used to do duos. I mean, when I was tiny, the first gig I ever did was probably to a lot of old people, old time dancing, playing waltzes, tangos, and quick steps.
Right. Okay.
But the funny thing I remember about that is they were all women.
Mm-hmm.
All the ladies were dancing with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't question it at the time. But I found it great fun at the time, and it was all about tempo and getting just making people feel good, and everything had to be exactly the right speed. And so very early memories like that, I think now quite important. Plus, I did have I'm not draconian, but very un-PC drum teacher from about the age of 10, his name was Jimmy Benson.
Okay.
And he was a contemporary of people like from that era, people like Kenny Clare, Ronnie Verrill, who was the drummer in the Muppet Show, who was Animal.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So all of these guys, and he had a drum shop, and I went for lessons at his drum shop in Barnet in North London. And so he was hanging out with all these people, and he was incredibly sort of funny, but sort of very, very un-PC. He was the drummer actually who, when West Side Story, the musical, first came to London in the West End, he was the drummer for that.
Right.
So,
Okay.
he was like this great drummer, but he was also incredibly bitter and twisted. so I don't know actually, looking back, if I had the best role models as people, but he ultimately got me into I think my first lesson when I was 10 years old. He didn't even want to teach me. He says, I don't teach kids, I teach teenagers. I don't want to teach a 10-year-old boy. So my mother somehow persuaded him to give me a lesson, to which was terrifying because he was a chain smoking kind of beast of a man, uncompromising. And I loved drummers like Cozy Powell and rock music and all the pop music of the 70s. And when I was 10, he said, who's your favorite drummer? And then I sort of said, oh, Cozy Powell. And his first words to me, he's rubbish. Basically, he proceeded to destroy my character, make me upset. I'm sure I was in tears, and I said, I never want to go back again. But he did say, you don't want to listen to that rubbish. You want to listen to Buddy Rich. So
okay.
I thought, well, who's Buddy Rich? So he gave me a cassette. And so I listened to this, and I don't think I've ever stopped listening to it. I don't think I've ever stopped trying to sort of play at a level which that even comes to, because at that it was very, very important for me to hear that and big band music, but particularly that kind of drumming. I remember thinking, what is going on? What is that snare drum? How is that happening? So then I loved going to these drum lessons for about 7 years, to the point where he didn't teach me anything. He just kind of put up the charts, and I learned to play to every big band record that had ever happened, I'd ever heard. All the Basie records, he wrote them all out. I played them. And it ended up being like, well, what do you want to play today, kid? Well, I'll do this one. Oh, what do we want to, should we do that set? I will do that set. And I just treated it as a reason to play, because I couldn't play the drums at home because it was too loud. So I played once a week.
Yeah. So I just had the film Whiplash come into my head while you were talking about it.
It's very controversial.
Yeah. Was it based on that?
Well, it is, yeah.
I think it was actually based on a real cheap.
It's based on the sort of it's actually based on Buddy Rich's attitude to life and music and commitment, I think.
Right.
So even though it's got the band director and the kid drummer who will do anything, absolutely anything, just to supposedly be a musician. It's one of the biggest questions I get asked. And the funniest of things, have you seen the film?
Yeah.
Well, the arrangement of Caravan at the end of that is an arrangement that I've had with my big band for a really long time. So I've got a video on YouTube of my big band playing that arrangement, but I played that arrangement before I'd ever heard of or seen that film.
Ah, okay.
So it's got no relation to the film at all whatsoever, but they just happened to use that arrangement of Caravan by isn't that terrible? I've forgotten the arranger's name. Sorry. Well, because he commented on the YouTube video, bless him. So anyway, but I'd never seen that. But the irony is I just did what people do to get a little bit of clickbaity on the video.
Yeah.
So I just changed and put the Whiplash.
Yeah.
And then unbelievable amounts of whatever the algorithm was, unbelievable amounts of comments and how, is that right? Is that like it is in the film? And he's not bleeding, and he's not, you know what I mean? It's like sort of madness, really. So yeah, I'd never even seen the film when I played that, but
Cool.
I prefer my version, obviously.
Of course, yeah, and that's with the big band explosion, isn't it? Your big band,
Yes, yeah,
which I've not seen. I did see that video that you're talking about that
yeah.
arrangement, but yeah. So and is that something that's still going? You still?
Yes, I mean, we recently played. What was our last show? We did Pizza Express Jazz Club in London recently. Uh, Over the last year or so, I haven't done as many shows with it, just because life's taken slightly different paths. And I myself, with Josie Freighter, we run a club called Ziggy's World Jazz Club in London.
Oh, okay.
We do other events as well. I love doing the big band. And I need to do more of it, is the answer.
Yeah.
So actually, you're making me think there is going to be lots more of it, but I'll let you know.
Fantastic. Yeah. I don't know that we're fit a big band on the how big is it?
16.
16.
16.
Ooh.
So you've got four
Yeah.
trumpets,
Yeah.
3 trombones, 4 saxophones, keyboard, bass, drums, vocals, guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great. I think it'd be great to get a big band up there, but I don't know if, yeah, we might have to. I remember seeing Loose Tubes at one of Scott's, and I'm pretty
You're
sure
going
they
back
were
a long time.
Yeah, well, that was 2014. They did a sort of 30th or 40th or whatever it was anniversary of the Open Letter, I think it was,
Yeah.
or of the band last time they played or whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they were encroaching on the audience area on the sides of the stage as well.
I think they stood in a line, as I remember. I think they stood in a kind of semicircle. They didn't stand in a kind of traditional format.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
they actually
they were
stood kind of
definitely
in a
crammed
semicircle.
on because
Yeah.
yeah, I had one of those seats that was right at the front of the stage.
Ah,
And Django had his keyboard there, and he got a piece of cardboard, much the same as Sam Leake used on his
right.
gig the other day, but propped up on the edge of the keyboard, and it wouldn't hold up. So my bottle of beer became the music stand for the night.
Ah, there you go. Your claim to fame. You kept the gig going.
But yeah, it's good. I've always liked. I don't know necessarily big bands as a sort of that sort of format, but certainly the sort of larger bands, the sort of 6-piece upwards, 6, 8-piece bands where you've got lots going on, lots, it's great to see a trio and a quartet or whatever playing, but I've just always sort of leaned towards the sound of, especially, for live music where you've got.
I mean, for me personally, I don't know if it comes across on records or not, but in a live situation, I don't feel I ever play in any other band format in the same way as I do in a big band format. There's a sort of power that goes, and a power that goes with it that doesn't. It's just a sonic sound that doesn't happen in any other. You might play in a loud band, I don't know, with a load of guitars. The music might be loud, but it doesn't have the impact. There's something about the brass instruments that give it a real kind of thrilling excitement, exciting sound for me. So I can't really compare it to anything else. And each time I do it, I think I need to do more. I need to do more of this. So obviously I've done a lot of it over the years with my band, and some of the, I think probably had some of the greatest UK players in the band over the last 10 years or so, at least. So people like Tom Walsh and Vasilis Anopoulos, and so it's a real lot of fun for me to play in that. The thing is, you get very little rehearsal time.
Yeah.
So, and it's so you usually end up rehearsing half the music before the show, and then you hope. So there's a lot of strategic. I look at a chart and think, well, we're going to play. How's this going to go if we haven't run this? So I have to think about that a lot as well. So I may not play West Side Story medley if we haven't run it, or I may not play kind of some of the crazy numbers that, but it's always great fun. And I love writing vocals. The combination of vocal, in fact, Fusion Phew is really just a pared down version of my big band. So my taste in music is very much fusion and big band, not necessarily small band jazz in the in the traditional sense, because I
Yeah.
never really got into that much. It was always particularly all elements of fusion and all elements of big band. So and pop, yeah, pop,
Pop.
yeah,
Absolutely.
whatever that is. So I've had
Well,
a
jazz was pop once, wasn't it?
jazz. I'm not a labels. I'm not a labels person. I'm not a genre person. I'm just, do I like
Yeah.
the music? And does the audience like the music? So I think, ironically, there's a bit of a fusion resurgence, whatever that means, but it's got a different name now. It's called crossover. So anybody who
Yes.
wants to know what fusion is called, it's not fusion anymore, it's crossover.
Indeed. Yeah.
Discovered
Every
this.
generation brings its names and
Yeah.
tries to understand what's going on. I'm reading a really good book at the moment. I haven't got it up with me at the moment. But it's yeah, the unapologetic expression. The story of the UK jazz explosion. That's really good. But yeah, it's actually sort of covering from the, I suppose, after the 90s, because I got into jazz and what was happening in the UK specifically around the late 80s and early 90s. So when the Jazz Warriors were coming together, and then later on acid jazz, um and it kind of dropped off a bit, I think, after that. And this book sort of covers that period after I sort of stopped playing and got into a family life and corporate life and everything else, and sort of
Family
picked
and corporate. Don't knock it.
and well, yeah, so yeah, it's a really interesting book, and talking about, you know, how all of the other influences of the UK have actually, you know, sort of brought together a new mix, really, that's rooted in jazz and jazz education, but absorbing, as jazz always has, or as popular music, or all sorts, you know,
Well,
everything that absorbs kind of culturally what's going on, and sort of makes, yeah, each generation makes it their own.
I mean, I think I've probably played through the different eras of whatever jazz has been called. I mean, for instance, like the Royal Academy of Music. It's interesting when they teach the history of jazz, whatever that is. I know Rosie went to the Royal Academy, and you know, each place has its own way of teaching and their own people they go to you know, whether it's free jazz or whether it's I don't know any other name of jazz really, but or particular musicians or composers. And there's I don't know, some people might get into jazz because they just put a level 42 song on.
Yeah, well, that's how I started. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
so
yeah,
arguably the kind of looser pop, you know, crossover bands, whether it is Steely Dan, people might not even they might not call it jazz. They might just think, oh, I like that.
exactly,
You know,
yeah.
and they don't know, and they don't care. They just like a chord change. They're not analyzing it. They just like the song. You know, like what was one of Steely Dan's biggest hits? Haitian Divorce. That's one of the big. I think it was like over 6 minutes long. It's like maybe one of their weirdest songs. I think it's one of their biggest hits. Most people today seem to compare music that crosses over to a mainstream with bands, older bands like that. Steely Dan, who at their time were just pop rap, but in fact they regarded themselves as a rock band. They don't really think of themselves as anything. So it's just interests me, you know. So that jazziness, whatever it is, just will get mixed with some element of what popular culture is, and then people give it a name and all that stuff. So you know, if you get scientific about it, you know, and the rhythms are pretty much the same. The time signatures are the same. They've, you know, you're either playing in 4/4, 2/4, or you're playing in an odd time signature. You're either playing straight beats or in divisions of 3, so it sounds shuffly or swingy. And then you've got a different tune and a different chord structure. It's not really changed, you know. It's not really changed. It's just the image. People are very obsessed with image now. Jazz bands can't really, I don't know, am I going to insult anybody? Like you can't really get away with getting up there in a kind of tank top and a shirt and a music stand. I'd hate music stands. And even though there'll probably be a few on my gig in your venue, I don't really like anyone having a music stand. I prefer, it's all right in a big band, but any other context, I think it, or unless you're in an orchestra, I just think it's a bit of a barrier myself.
It's interesting you say that, yeah, because there's been a few bands that have come up that have obviously there's yeah, some of the bands are sort of sight reading and such. They don't necessarily have lots of time to rehearse that beforehand. But yeah, it's especially because I do the video as well. You know, it's trying to set up GoPros on the stage where you're actually going to get a shot of the guitar, not the,
not the music stand,
sheet of music in front of it. But yeah.
Pat Metheny hates music stands as well. He says it kind of, you never see anybody looking at a note of music on a Pat Metheny gig.
Yeah.
He says it's like, well, you wouldn't see it on a Beatles gig, would you?
Yeah.
You know, so and I kind of agree with that. I never read unless I have to. I never have a sheet of music, anything, nothing. I try to learn it, but obviously the flip side of that is you're quite right. It is about short rehearsal time, so that, you know, being able to put the amazing invention of musical notes up so people all start and finish and take a solo at the right time is really important as well.
Of course. Yeah.
What was it that you played again, Dave?
I played bass.
Okay.
That's how I started, because it was level 42. From the pop world that I started listening to the music, like you say, oh, this sounds quite interesting. And then so it's Mark King sort of got me into sort of playing the bass.
He's incredible. The guy's incredible.
Yeah.
He's still maybe arguably definitely one of the greatest bass players ever. I don't know if how many people today know I mean, they're out there playing, they're gigging now, you know, they're still gigging.
Yeah.
But he's always been a phenomenal bass player. But he was a drummer, you see.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they all were, weren't they? Apparently, they were all drummers, and they realised that they got to sort of take different roles. But and it was actually an interview on Radio 1 that was done with Mark, where they played Meeting of the Spirits, the Vision Orchestra, and One to One from or One on One from Jan Hammer.
Right.
I mean, when did you hear that on Radio 1? And it was like, wow, this is exactly, and so they kind of all sort of sprouted from there, and yeah, that's how I kind of got into it. So the band that you're coming up with, let's just introduce the band. So you got obviously Josie Frater, who
obviously she sings in everything I do. Yeah, we write together and have done for years. So yeah, and I do like my vocals. So yeah, Josie Frater on vocals. The other one, Rosie Frater Taylor on guitar and vocals, who I know you know and are a fan of.
I mistook. I think in the promo that I did recently, I mentioned that Featherweight was her second album, but I've forgotten her first. It's actually her third, isn't it?
It's her third, yeah. It is. It's she started young.
Yeah.
Actually, Rosie's one of these people who's she's got a very clear route and idea of what she's doing. There might be a lot of really good musicians, so there are a lot of great musicians, but putting everything together, making it your thing is not as easy,
right?
For people, you know, I play with great musicians all the time, but Rosie has somehow managed to pull all that, her whole thing together, and put it out in a very clear way, I think.
Yeah.
So that's my take on her. I can have an opinion. She doesn't even have to answer, but she does heckle me on stage, so be prepared for that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, who else? Yeah, Neil Angley.
Yes, yeah.
Neil Angley, the great Neil Angley.
Indeed.
Probably unsung, dare I say. He's like he trained as a concert pianist. So he kind of, that separates him slightly from some of your traditional jazzers, I think, because he's quite flamboyant and plays some beautiful Latin, and it's just fantastic rhythmical player. And he has his own trio that he's had for a long time, and which is amazing. We have, who do we have? Johnny Wickham, who you know.
Yes.
He's been to Worcester before.
He has indeed, yes. So this will be his second, I think, appearance at the Mars Bar.
I love Johnny. We do a lot of playing together. He plays his upright, he plays his electric, he plays anything I tell him to play. And we seem to do a lot of gigs together. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, if I missed anybody out, I don't think I have. Oh,
Phil.
yes, Phil.
Phil
I have no
Meadows.
words. There's nothing you can even say about Phil Meadows. Phil Medals. Phil Meadows, saxophone player extraordinaire, and again, not maybe typical musician. He's been obviously involved in a whole load of projects. He's a conductor, arranger. He used to be involved with NIJO, National Youth Jazz Orchestra. And he's a real mover and shaker, and good friend. So, you know, you got to play with people that you can get on with for at least 45 minutes.
And then go outside and
yeah. It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, you do music. It's true. The musical communication. It's true. It's you do go into a little bit of a space of you know, one mind, as it were, where you can kind of read another person's thoughts for 45 minutes, and then you come off and you think, I've got nothing to say to this person. But I don't really mean that derogatively. It is actually it's sometimes the case. You know,
communicating for the last 45 minutes. Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah, listening to what everybody says and acts, the way they're acting. You know. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Indeed. And for those that haven't heard or heard any of the music before, what sort of stuff can we look forward to?
A mixture, I guess. My personal mixture, some of my original arrangements, some arrangements I do with my big band, but I pare down, like Gil Scott-Heron's Lady Day and John Coltrane. We'll do some of Rose's songs. We'll do we do some songs by Airto Moreira and Flora Purim. They had a band called Fourth World, which was really big for them in the 90s, which I absolutely adored. And Josie and I loved that band. And that's kind of very Latin based and jazz based, very strong rhythms. And what else? We're trying to think. I can't remember my tunes. Yeah, there'll be a nice funky mixture, a nice jazzy, funky, Latin-y mixture, and maybe one or two bad jokes.
Okay, we do allow bad jokes. Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun.
We'll start a comedy club if we get in. Jason Rebello was playing in January, and he notoriously gets up and tells a couple of his jokes. So it's all good, all good. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Steve. It's been really good chatting with you. Really looking forward to welcoming you all to Worcester and Mars Bar stage. This is on Thursday, the 16th of May, just over a week away. So yeah, safe trip up, and see you on the 16th.
Look forward to it. See you on the 16th. Looking forward to it. Bye-bye.